And now I have to introduce our next speaker. I will be with you another half an hour. And I have to introduce Titis Primita. Hi, Titis.
Hi, Silvia. Ciao.
Hi.
It must be very early for you.
Yeah, it's 4:30 in the morning. What time is it in Singapore?
It's 10:30 right now.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
you're
it's a
already
normal time for me to have a seminar.
great. I'm so happy to have you here, Titis.
Thank you. Same here.
We met last time online because
Yes.
we were both involved in a master in the POLI.design consortium, which is industrial design for architecture. And Titis was a lecturer as well with me inside the master. So I just introduced you briefly to our audience. And
Yeah.
Titis is the design director of Design Datum. She's also a lecturer, as I said, so in the Masters of Poly-Design Consortium. So I can say that somehow she merges the work of being an architect and an educator of future designers. So she really touches this point. And thank you again for being here with us. And I'm sure we will have a great conversation. And
Yeah, my pleasure.
super. So when I contacted you, I asked you which keyword you would like to suggest for our conversation. You said that the keyword you are suggesting is independence. So I would like to go through this term with you, involving also some aspects that are related to your job and your daily life experience, because I think that they are totally fitting the concept you were posing as a question here.
Yeah, so correct. So
no, tell me.
Yeah, so basically what I do is a design director of Design Datum, which is a wayfinding and placemaking consultancy. And this was a good flow because like your conversation previously about the sense making, and then we are doing a wayfinding and placemaking talk. So I don't know how diverse the audience is, but let's say if this is like not all of us are architecture from architecture background, for example. So I'll just give like a brief introduction of what placemaking is. So basically, placemaking is the design, planning, and management of public spaces. So part of that can be a sense making. Partially, it could be like creating a meaning of a space, or it can be also reinvent the use of a space, right? So there are so many aspects on it. And then wayfinding is basically the design to make sure that the end users, like people who use that particular public space, to be able to navigate themselves from one space to another and recognize places that they have been to. So long story short, it's similar to user experience design in a built environment. So basically that's what wayfinding and placemaking is. And the topic today that I picked is independence. That's mainly because more and more time keep realizing that basically when any design that allows units to operate independently. When I say unit, it could be a space, it could be a person, it could be a designer, it could be businesses, a store, right? So when the design actually allow the units to operate independently, it will be like one of our biggest support and a cornerstone for us to actually able to mitigate around unpredictable situations like a pandemic, like COVID-19. Yeah.
How would you say that wayfinding and placemaking changed after COVID-19 as you were introducing this?
Yeah, so basically the needs of people have changed more than the leisure itself. There are additional needs. So basically what the market needs right now, there are two things. One is the safety and then the perceived safety, which has to really go hand on hand. Like, for example, there are two types of users that's involved here. So number one is the end users. Basically in a retail, that's the customer. In a park, that's the park visitor. In the hospital, that's the patient, right? So the end user, what do they really want? There are two things. So once they want the safety, but they will only act like their decision making only based on the perceived safety. So that's why this only can go together. And So basically, our fear of contaminations will dictate on how we choose the place where we want to go, right? So while the second type of users are the public space managers, right? Can be a business owner, can be a restaurant owner, can be a park manager, whose concern is to make sure that if one unit is down and they have to be isolated for some reason, the other part of the spaces can still be operating independently as well. So that's how the independence is very important. So if I want to elaborate like how different it is, the perceived safety with the actual safety, right? So for example, a more desirable development configurations have to really come with the both quality, because one cannot be with the other. It has to go together. Like for example, a very safe space but doesn't have the perceived safety. For example, a very big indoor enclosed mall or any public space, right? That has a lot of units, and you have like only indoor walkway that connect you from one to another, only indoor vertical access, only indoor atrium. No matter how advanced the technology of HVAC that you can install there, let's say they are able to change their air every, let's say, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, that advanced, and they can isolate one place to another. But then the perceived safety is not there, because what we remember is just the shape of the building instead of how technologically advanced that space is. So you have to install that for sure. That's a great thing, but like the perceived safety also important. And in a better setup for what we can remember easily, it can be like, for example, if we have this a special configuration of a city walk, when you have units where it's connected with the outdoor walkway with an actual outdoor piazza, for example, people relate immediately that each unit are connected with individual HVAC system, which is independent, while the outdoor space will actually change the air automatically, right? So we people, regardless of the education's level, we have intuition of what's safe, what's not. So it's very important when we're designing something, we have to convey that message while providing the actual safety. We have to convey that message, hopefully visually, because people will remember a visual cues way much more, to make sure that people remember those features on your space, right? So, for example, if it's offices or multi-story residential, places with independent towers will have
Very common in Singapore, I have to say.
very common in Singapore. That is typical. That is easier to survive for them in a type of pandemic, because you can isolate one and let the other to still operate.
Yeah, true. Very. So for those brands or shops which already have an indoor space, what do you think they can do now, also in light of this emergency that we have?
Yes, I think there are so many companies have really invested tremendously in having those spaces, and we can't let go that investment. So I really understand that their concern. So this is not the end of indoor spaces, but there are so many strategies that can actually be implemented in this kind of situation. So basically, COVID-19 have changed retail strategy in a very extreme way, because let's say in the past 8 or 10 years, I guess, the retail strategy, most of them really rely on the assumption that where we stay longer, when the customers stay longer in a space, they will buy more.
Yeah,
which is true for one cases, and sometimes it's not really correct for the others. And that's why in Italy you have bookstores that have cafes, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Sundays is going to the shopping mall just to have a walk and see something. That doesn't mean
yes,
that you're going
yes.
to buy something. So yes.
Yes. So sometimes in certain cases that's really true and some are not. So I think we have to evaluate the strategy. Yeah. But COVID-19 have changed that assumption completely, because indoor spaces no longer have the ability to keep as many people as they would like, because there is this social distancing rule. So the issue is a lot of people are queuing outside the mall, for example, and then they only can go, only number of a client or customer can go to one space at a time. So the issue here is at one particular time, there are only very few people who can stay in that space, right? And so the some of the latest strategy to be implemented. This is just an example. There are so many other strategies,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like some of the strategies that can be implemented, which already some of the companies have started doing. So basically, they are really try to identify the key reason why customer go to their physical shop instead of online. So in each kind of businesses, there are different reasons, and each brands, they have different reasons as well. So this is something that as a consultant, as a designer, or if you actually a business owner yourself, you have to really identify this carefully. I'll just give an example. Let's say for a certain kind of retail, the simplest one, maybe they really want to do a touch and feel of the materials, right? Because that's important. And then you want to try something on, and that's also important. So on the design activity itself, we create a journey mapping of a customer, for example, right? So the customer reach the particular place, they look at the entrance, they enter, being greeted by the shopkeeper, they browse, they enjoy the surrounding, and then they, in the end, touch and feel. And then in the end, they choose, and then they try, and so on and so on. So maybe there are more than 10 of key points of key activities in this particular journey. So once we identify which one that actually the real reason why people have to go to the physical space instead of buying it online, then we have to try to simplify the rest of the processes, whether you do it online on shop and make it faster, or you can do certain activities that make it non-touch activities. So if you can make everything a touchless base of interactions between the customer and the businesses, that will be great. And there are more and more companies, especially in US, have done some steps to try those strategies on.
Yeah.
And so basically, because of this, right, the retail spaces, most of them change from a market space towards more of a quick showroom type, and all of other transactions and browsing and everything would be like suggested to happen outside the shop. So this kind of situation makes the omni-channel strategy has to be as tight as possible. The strategy has to be more efficient, more than ever. And before it was more like explorations basis, like for omni-channel strategies, but now it is a necessity, and it's also reaching a safety need as well.
Super.
So
Really
yeah, and
touching super interesting points. Go ahead. I mean,
yeah, and some of the shop are really showing the actions of sanitizing as a part of their giving the customer more peaceful mind when they're entering the shop. And it actually worked for me. Like I have to go to like a supermarket no, we can deliver on get delivery online, but not all of the fresh product we can get like as fresh as if we buy in the supermarket. So in certain days in the morning, I go to a supermarket. There is supermarket that actually 1 kilometer away from where I live right now, but I choose the one that 2 kilometers away and slightly more expensive.
I imagine due
Because
to the experience. I imagine due to the
yes,
experience.
it is because a lot of activities there are non-touch. And second, whenever enter the supermarket, I always see a staff that wipe the shopping cart.
Yeah.
There is always that one staff that wiping all of the shopping cart. And right now during pandemic, that is the most great welcoming
Yeah,
act
it
for
makes
me. And then
people feeling safe. You know that also the advertising are turning and changing, and they say always safe, safety, comfort. So
right.
that's really a key point also in interiors, I have to say, and in the experience of interiors, right?
Yes, the way we welcome people changed.
Yeah, totally,
The way we
totally.
say like we care about you changed.
Yeah,
And as a designer, we have to think how to do it more in the elegant way and a more welcoming and friendly way. But I think that is like key features that people have to think about.
okay, yeah,
And
totally.
hopefully in the future, more and more spaces, like when people more um, aware, and when the idea of social distancing is more um, become more intuitive on people's day-to-day activity, hopefully the design going to be more friendly and less defensive. Because I don't know what happened in Italy right now, but here I would say like I see more of crosses of a space more than a circle, because this basically say do not,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
here basically say welcome.
Same
and
here.
and
There
and
are lots of signs that
yeah,
says don't
do
go
not.
here, enter here, go that way, not this one. Yes, totally.
And when people are more familiar with the concept, slowly we can introduce something more subtle and elegant, saying of how long is 6 feet, how long is 1.5 meter, probably in a part of a floor tile. It could be part of the carpet. It could be part of lightings. If this is integrated in things that actually naturally has to be there,
Yeah.
so our life will be less of the life-size infographic and more of a beautiful architecture, while it's being safe as well. But people also need to understand what it means. But
Of
like,
course, of course.
hopefully, we will reach that point.
I
Yeah.
hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be something that is added in the environment that always will look something odd to look at. If it's
Yes.
integrated, that's great. That's a super upgrade that we should have. What about if we shift from the public, let's say, experience to a more private one related to independence? So I think you also have been working from home, like everyone
Yes,
in
and you
Singapore. You
too.
have experienced this. Yes, I'm still working from home, and now we have the chance to go a little bit out. We have the chance to go to the office more than before. But what do you think about working from home in your experience?
COVID-19 give us like a big opportunity to actually do workplace and work culture experiment. And I understand if companies reluctant to do that because in the past, it will actually pose some financial risk to do that. But like since we have to do that worldwide simultaneously, we are doing this big task, and many companies actually thrive with it, and some designers actually really enjoy it way much more, and also other part of the team. And we have been dreaming about working with the location independence concept, which is basically a digital nomad concept. Yeah. However, it's not available for many types of job. In the past, before COVID-19, it's only good for self-employed kind of freelancer, but not for everybody, not for people who actually work in a company, not many, right? And so, and it actually proven that it can actually be way much more efficient for many of us, right? Um, but in the other side, for us who are working in physical object design, can be architecture, interior, product design, or fashion. Uh, it doesn't come with challenges. It comes with challenges, and I don't know if you experience it as well, but basically one of the biggest challenges that we have is our spatial senses, like to understand how far certain things, how high it is, without experiencing the space itself. And it has been issues for some projects, for example. And then also we also define our value in through by selecting materials. For example, selecting materials is like one of the most difficult to be done remotely. And so basically, I think that there are things that can be developed, and I think so far we are on the way towards that, because for the spatial senses itself, there are more and more startups who's developing AR and VR to allow us to actually physically walk inside our own model. Because walking by doing an actual walk with VR is different with walking using our mouse. The feeling is different, right?
Another experience.
So that's another experience completely. So so I think at some point we will reach there, but I think that part is not fully solved yet. Hopefully that's going to be ready and affordable for all skills of designer, hopefully. Affordability is also one key thing, but also another problem is material selection. We also, when we actually define our value, we are showing, oh, this is how we are choosing this material because of how soft it is, how heavy it is, how light it is, and a lot of our work also about that descriptions, right, and that senses. So hopefully in the future there will be more. Polimi, we can actually build it if you want. I hope we can actually create a systematic library of materials where we can that will allow us to work independently, and also help us to communicate better with others who are in distance when we can describe that material correctly. I'm talking about Pantone chart equivalent of materials. But then it's a bit difficult because you have more multi-dimension that you have to think about, like heaviness, like the weight, and then the texture, type of materials, colors, the light reflectance value, and so on and so on. So it's more complicated than just colors. But then I think once we have that proper tag for every types of material, it's way easier for even people in tech industry to actually recreate that for renders. It's easier for us to communicate, and that will allow us to have a smaller sets of material samples instead of the whole office library.
That is an experience. That was an experience also, because when you enter the material room of the studio is always an amazing experience. But that's true that we cannot miss this part in our job. Truly, we have to find alternative ways to do it.
Yes, at least it will allow us to have an option when we actually spend way much more time in the spatial features of a building. For example, we do that in a more careful way. We do it with really touch and feel the actual materials, make it more artisanal. We have to customize it maybe, but for other things which is less important, probably a storeroom or something, we can actually, based on the simplicity that of communication techniques using this tagging, maybe we can actually spend less resources on that. So we have more options, even more after pandemic, if we have all of those tools and toolkits with us. So maybe we can build that.
Yeah. True. But also, we should also work on how to convey that to the clients. I mean, also to make them able to experience it and understand it.
Definitely. And it will be good if there is like an authority organizations or group that can endorse that, for example. So this is going to be used universally, just like it's really like a Pantone chart equivalent of a materials. If that can happen, that would be like really helpful for all of us.
True.
And I think once we are used to it, once we are really happy with the way we work right now, once we have a good toolkits and all of the infrastructures that help us to do that. I think that gives opportunity for businesses to also grow in an alternative way. Like there are more options to grow, because traditionally, I'm sure you're familiar with it. Like most companies, of a design companies, let's say, only after they reach certain size of business and they have, let's say, 30 staff or something, then they think like, hey, I think we are big enough and we can expand to other countries and we have more reach, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if you have like 30 people in the main branch, in the headquarter, and then you have 10 in the new branch and 10 in the new branch in different cities, right? Let's say you have reached 3 countries that way. Yeah, wait, 20, yeah, 30, 20, 20. Yeah, so it's like 50 people and 3 countries. And let's say if all of us simultaneously, we have learned how to work remotely and we are so comfortable with all of the infrastructures that we have, it allows us to grow, for example, with the same number of people, 50. Each countries have, let's say, 5 people in each countries, and you can have the reach of 10 countries. You can have like 10 branches that can grow simultaneously if we are already able to do remote work. So I think all of other work that we have done to adjust ourselves to COVID-19 will actually, even after the post-pandemic, it will help businesses to grow, experiment to grow in many different ways, which is, I think that's one of the benefits.
I think so, but also the idea to have some common tools, as you already said, I think that totally will help the business and also totally will help those companies that were a bit reluctant to try the remote working, that this is not something that is going to completely affect the business. And this is what we felt. But if we already have been prepared to that, they can definitely see also the possibilities in that. I mean, truly, it opens a big horizon in the businesses. You're right, Titis. That's a good point. We have 2 minutes left. And so I would like to ask you a very short question. It's more about your opinion, I have to say. Do you think that people and companies have come out of this experience more suspicious or more open towards the possibility that we can have?
I think it's both, and I think being a realist, that happens at the same time. But hopefully, people are courageous enough to take a little bit more risk, because as proven, we are actually learn so much just by changing the way we live, the way we work. And in the other side, it gives also sense of unity. Between suspicions and openness, like, but there is a sense of unity because all humankind fighting one same enemy in a way. So it gives like more dimension to it than just like these two, and hopefully we can learn how to grow better, and hopefully we still can have give this as an opportunity to actually experiment in more ways than before, and meantime also have fun with it.
You are right, totally right, Titis. I mean, super. Thank you. We have, unfortunately, to finish our conversation. It was really a big pleasure to have you here, because you also touched some points that we never touched in the live streamings as for now, from a perspective that is really close to your work and your daily job. And that's really was interesting. And I think that will arise a debate and some thoughts in our audience for sure. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for the pleasant conversation. That was great. And I hope to see you very, very soon in real.
Yes. Thank you, Sylvia. See you soon, okay?
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Goodbye, Titis.
Bye.
Thanks.